You know the character. You know the scream. You know the chainmail and the complete lack of fear. Big Papa Pump. Scott Steiner built a legend on being the toughest, meanest, most unpredictable genetic freak in the building. He made a career out of making other people afraid of him. But what if I told you there were 10 people? 10 specific wrestlers? Who flipped that script? Who, behind all the yelling and the muscles, actually made Scott Steiner nervous? Who made the man who erased the line between fiction and reality pause? Who made him think twice? Before we go any deeper, I need to know from you. Who do you think Scott Steiner was afraid of? Drop the first name that comes to mind in the comments right now. I'll be reading them. Today we're diving into one of wrestling's most fascinating contradictions. We're not talking about who he hated. That list is long and loud. We're talking about something rarer, quieter, and far more telling. The 10 wrestlers Scott Steiner has named, in shoot interviews and in candid moments that he feared. Not in the story, in real life. This isn't about scripted rivalries. This is about the gut-level respect and caution that comes from looking across the ring at someone you know is just as real, just as dangerous, and just as willing to cross every line as you are. To understand this fear, you have to understand Steiner's code. He wasn't just playing a tough guy. He was a tough guy. A legitimate NCAA Division I All-American wrestler from the University of Michigan. He entered a business full of bodybuilders and actors with a background in real, grueling combat sport. That legitimacy was his prism. He judged everyone through it. Could they really fight? Were they legit? Or were they just playing dress-up? His entire persona, the volatility, it was all rooted in a genuine contempt for the fake. So when Scott Steiner says he was afraid of someone, he's giving them the highest compliment in his twisted, brutal world. He's saying, you are real, and you are dangerous. The context matters too. Steiner's peak spanned the dying days of the territory system, the brutal political wars of WCW, and the rise of a new era. He saw backstage politics, favoritism, and styles change. His fears often mapped directly onto these shifts: fear of the old guard's power, fear of the new guard's recklessness, and most of all, fear of the few individuals whose reality matched his own. So let's break them down. These are the 10 who, in Steiner's own words, earned his genuine fear. Number 10, Vader. In the early 90s, Scott Steiner was one half of the Steiner brothers, arguably the greatest tag team on the planet. They were technical masters, flying through the air with unbelievable agility for their size. And then, in WCW, they had to face Leon White, Vader. Vader wasn't just a big man. He was a monstrous, 400-pound force of nature who was shockingly agile. A former professional football player with a mean streak that was anything but an act. Stories of Vader stiffing opponents, hitting them way too hard for real, are legendary. He'd crack ribs. He'd separate shoulders. There was a very real sense that Vader didn't always know his own strength. Or worse, he didn't care. For the Steiner brothers, whose style was built on precise, fast-paced, high-risk teamwork, Vader was a waking nightmare. One mistimed move, one moment where Vader decided not to cooperate fully, and you could be leaving the ring on a stretcher. Scott has talked about the palpable tension before those matches. It wasn't about winning or losing a storyline. It was about getting through the bout with your health intact. You didn't work a match with Vader. You survived it. That fear was rooted in pure physical preservation. Vader represented chaotic, uncontrollable power. And for a controlled athlete like Steiner, that was terrifying. Number 9, Dr. Death, Steve Williams. Another name from the realm of pure, unadulterated legitimacy. Dr. Death Steve. Williams was a wrestling god in Japan and a feared figure in the US, a bona fide bad boy, an All-American wrestler at the University of Oklahoma, where he was a 2-time NCAA heavyweight, champion, a level of amateur pedigree that even Steiner had to look up to. Then he became a professional who was known for his stiff, rugged shoot-style approach. When Scott Steiner assesses someone, their amateur credentials are his Bible, and Dr. Death's Bible was thicker than most. This wasn't a fear of the unknown. It was a fear born of knowing exactly what the man was capable of. Williams had the technique to match Steiner, the strength to overwhelm him, and a reputation for making things hurt. In the cliquey political world of wrestling, Williams was one of the few who operated with a kind of silent, respected authority that came from being undeniably real. Crossing him wasn't just a bad career move. It was a potentially painful physical mistake. Steiner feared him because he respected his resume on a molecular level. He saw in Williams a mirror image of his own real sport mentality, but amplified and with even more lore attached. Number 8, Sid Vicious, Sid Justice. Sometimes fear isn't about technical skill or a decorated background. Sometimes it's about unpredictability and sheer unstable volatility. Enter Sid. Sid was a physical specimen with unbelievable charisma and a reputation for being, well, let's say, emotionally turbulent. The stories are the stuff of legend. The infamous scissors incident with Arn Anderson, the bar fights, the sense that Sid existed on a razor's edge. He was immensely strong, wildly popular, and completely unpredictable. For Scott Steiner, a calculating guy beneath the chaos, Sid represented a different kind of threat. You couldn't reason with him. You couldn't predict him. Backstage politics meant nothing if Sid decided he had a problem with you. It was like being in a cage with a powerful animal that might be calm one second and explosive the next. Steiner's fear of Sid wasn't about losing a worked match. It was about the possibility of a real, chaotic, and potentially violent confrontation that could erupt over anything, at any time. In a business where most conflict was at least negotiable, Sid was a force of nature you simply avoided. Number 7, the Ultimate Warrior. Similar to Sid, but with even more manic, incomprehensible energy, the Ultimate Warrior was an entity unto himself. His interviews were streams of consciousness. His ring style was a frenzied explosion, and backstage he was famously difficult, living in his own unique world with his own set of rules that made no sense to anyone else. For a no-nonsense, what you see is what you get guy like Steiner, the Warrior was an unsolvable puzzle and therefore a threat. How do you deal with someone who operates on a completely different wavelength? How do you have a match with a guy whose timing and coordination were entirely his own? There are stories of other wrestlers being genuinely worried about their safety because the Warrior was so unpredictable in the ring. He'd run too fast, leap too far, lose control. Steiner, a master of ring mechanics even in his crazy Big Papa Pump phase, would have looked at the Warrior and seen a liability, a human grenade with the pin pulled. The fear was of the accidental, of being injured because the other guy was in a galaxy of his own. Number 6, Brock Lesnar. This is the modern incarnation of the Vader fear, but with even more credentials. When Scott Steiner looks at Brock Lesnar, he sees the ultimate legit athlete. A former NCAA heavyweight champion, a former UFC heavyweight champion, a man who left wrestling to conquer the world of real, regulated combat and then came back. For Steiner, Lesnar is the final boss of his own personal value system. Lesnar didn't just have amateur credentials. He proved their worth on the biggest, most brutal stage possible, the UFC. There is no argument, no debate. In a straight fight, Brock Lesnar destroys almost anyone in the wrestling business, and everyone knows it. Steiner has admitted this freely. His fear of Lesnar is a clean, simple, and respectful form of fear. It's the fear a black belt might have of a higher degree black belt. It's acknowledging the hierarchy of real combat. In the ring, it's a working relationship, but the underlying truth is always there. This man could legitimately hurt me if he wanted to, and he has the proven skill to do it efficiently. That knowledge changes every interaction. Number 5, Kurt Angle. Here's where it gets interesting. Kurt Angle is another gold standard amateur wrestler, an Olympic gold medalist. On paper, he's the most credentialed guy in the room ever, and Steiner has massive respect for that. But the fear with Angle is layered. First, there's the obvious. In a pure amateur wrestling match, Angle beats Steiner and they both know it. That establishes a baseline respect. But the fear came from Angle's early years in professional wrestling. Kurt was a prodigy, but he was also incredibly intense, incredibly stiff, and still learning how to pull his punches. He wrestled like he was still in the Olympics. For veterans, working with a rookie that strong and that intense is terrifying. One mistimed suplex from an overeager Olympic champion could break your neck. Steiner has spoken about the caution required when in the ring with the young, green but phenomenally powerful and technical Kurt Angle. It was fear mixed with a teacher's concern for a brilliant but dangerous student. You were dealing with a loaded weapon that hadn't yet learned all its safety mechanisms. Number 4, the Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now this isn't a fear of Austin's in-ring technical prowess, though Austin was a fantastic worker. This is a fear of Austin's mind and his position. By the time Scott Steiner was ascending as a singles star in WCW, Stone Cold Steve Austin was becoming a cultural phenomenon in WWE. And Austin was famously relentless, stubborn, and held monumental influence. Steiner's fear of Austin is deeply tied to the Monday Night Wars and backstage politics. He saw Austin as the ultimate company man for the opposition, a guy whose voice carried incredible weight. There was a fear that Austin's opinions, if he disliked someone or something from WCW, could influence the entire industry. Furthermore, Austin had a reputation for being uncompromising and tough as nails, both physically and mentally. He was not someone you could intimidate. For Steiner, a political outsider often at odds with WCW management, Austin represented the empowered, untouchable top star of the rival company. Crossing him could have professional consequences that stretched far beyond a backstage shoving match. It was the fear of a powerful, respected, and immovable object. Number 3, The Undertaker. This fear is about aura, respect, and backstage power of a different kind. The Undertaker wasn't just a performer. He was the locker room leader in WWE for decades, the keeper of tradition, the judge, jury, and sometimes executioner of backstage justice. For an outsider like Steiner, who spent most of his peak in WCW and then bounced through TNA, The Undertaker represented the ultimate internal authority of the other side. It was a fear of the unknown, combined with a deep respect for the man's longevity and the unspoken power he wielded. To get on The Undertaker's bad side was to be blackballed in the largest wrestling company in the world. Furthermore, Taker, especially in his American Badass and later phases, was a legitimately tough individual who commanded respect through presence alone. Steiner's fear here is multifaceted. Fear of the political clout, fear of the legendary status, and fear of the man's imposing no-nonsense demeanor. It was the fear of walking into a kingdom where you don't know the rules, and the king is someone you don't want to challenge. Number 2, Mitsuharu Misawa. This name might surprise casual US fans, but to anyone who knows wrestling, it makes perfect sense. Mitsuharu Misawa was the heart, soul, and arguably the greatest in-ring performer in the history of Japanese puroresu, specifically All Japan Pro Wrestling, and that style in the 1990s was synonymous with one thing: brutal, unforgiving, stiff realism. It was as close to a real fight as professional wrestling got. When the Steiner brothers toured Japan, they were entering a different world. The expectations were higher, the style was harder, and the respect had to be earned through physical performance. Misawa was the top star, the standard bearer for this intense, hard-hitting philosophy. For Scott and Rick, working with Misawa and his peers, like Kenta Kobashi, Toshiaki Kawada, was a daunting challenge. It required them to adapt to a level of physical stiffness and storytelling, intensity they weren't used to in America. The fear was the fear of not measuring up. The fear of being exposed as not being tough, enough or good enough in this hyper-competitive, ultra-serious environment. Misawa, with his silent, stoic, and incredibly demanding presence, embodied that challenge. It was a professional fear, the fear of failing a test set by the masters of their craft. Number 1, Hulk Hogan. And here we are at number 1. The ultimate fear for Scott. Steiner wasn't a monster like Vader or a shooter like Dr. Death. It was the most famous wrestler of all time, Hulk Hogan. But why? Hogan wasn't a legitimate shooter. He wasn't known for backstage fights. So what was the fear? It was pure, unfiltered political and economic fear. Hogan, especially during his WCW run, had unprecedented creative control and financial power. His contract, his influence, could make or break careers, storylines, and even the show itself. For a rising star like Scott Steiner, who believed he deserved the top spot. Hogan was the immovable gatekeeper. To cross Hogan was to risk your push, your paycheck, your spot on the card. It was professional suicide. Steiner has told stories about the delicate dance required around Hogan. You couldn't go into business for yourself against him. You couldn't show him up without consequences. Hogan's political power was so vast, it created an atmosphere of walking on eggshells. Steiner's fear of Hogan was the fear of the system. It was the frustration of knowing that in a fight, he could probably take Hogan, but in the backstage world of contracts and politics, Hogan could end him. It was the most potent kind of fear for an employee. Fear of the boss who isn't technically your boss, but holds all the cards. This fear festered for years and fueled much of Steiner's later famous rage against the old guard holding down new talent. Hogan was the avatar of that entire system. So what's the conclusion here? The story of Scott Steiner's fears is actually a map of his deepest respects and his greatest frustrations. It shows us what he valued: legitimate fighting skill, unpredictable power, and above all, real, tangible influence. His fears reveal the man behind the monster more than his hatreds ever could. They show a competitor who, despite all the bluster, could recognize a true threat. Whether that threat came in the form of a stiff forearm from Dr. Death, the chaotic energy of Sid, or the political stranglehold of Hulk Hogan. In a business where he worked so hard to make everyone afraid of Scott Steiner, these 10 individuals managed to do the impossible. They made Scott Steiner afraid of them, and in his world, that might just be the highest honor there is. If this deep dive into the psychology of a legend resonated with you, do me a favor and smash that like button. It truly helps the channel. I want to hear from you. Which of these fears makes the most sense to you, and who did we miss? Let's have a conversation down in the comments. And if you want more untold stories and real wrestling psychology, subscribe and hit the bell. There's always more to the story. Thanks for watching.